Hey there, and welcome to the Innovative Mindset Podcast. My name is Isolde Trachtenberg, and I am your host. I'm also really happy you're here for the inaugural 2021 Creative Mindset Innovative Work solo episode. I'm really excited about bringing these episodes out because this is stuff that I'm thinking as I do the work on innovation and creative thinking and mindfulness and combining those three into something that is unique, effective, productive, and inspirational. I keep running across certain ideas that the streams of which I really want to explore, and I hope that that exploration is going to help you while you are on your own creative, innovative, and mindful journey. So today I had the absolute pleasure of interviewing Rob Greenlee, who is the Vice President of Content at Libsyn, which is one of the key podcasting platforms out there. And I love, by the way, that Libsyn stands for Liberated Syndication. What a great... That's so wonderful, right? Anyway, he and I started talking about creatives and podcasting, marketing, building community, and also what it takes to innovate in what is becoming a pretty crowded space. One of the things he said is that he believes that it's 1.8 million podcasts out there. And what's interesting is only about 40 to 50% of them are active. In other words, the new podcast episodes are still being created. But still, it's quite a lot. Not when you compare it to blogs. There are over 500 million blogs out there, so a lot more people have been writing. And I think in part because the technology for writing has been around longer than the technology for podcasting. But the fact remains that there are probably close to 800,000 to 1 million podcasts that are actively being produced, right? And so there's a lot of content from that space. And that made me wonder, well, what about somebody who wants to start a podcast? What do they do? How do you come into what is rapidly becoming a crowded marketplace, especially since we're still in COVID times, right? And most of us are spending time indoors, and a lot of us anyway, are working from home and spending a lot of time in front of the computer, and podcasting is one of those things that people are gravitating towards. I was just looking, there's a brand new Shure microphone out there all about podcasting, and everybody seems to have it or want it. And what is that all about? What are we doing when we are looking at the new technology to begin a podcast or something like it? And by the way, this idea that I'm about to talk about is something that you can look at for writing, for marketing, for painting, for music, for innovating at a company. It doesn't matter, because the thing that I'm thinking about right now, after this really rather bizarre introduction, is content creation versus content consumption. And as someone who is innovative and creative and also mindful, when should you do each, and how much should you do each? When is it appropriate, and when are you perhaps spending too much time in one or the other? Now, according to Gary Vaynerchuk, who a lot of people listen to in this space, he says that you shouldn't pay attention to anybody else. You should basically never do any content consumption. You should always be content creating. And that's a valid way of doing it, I guess. I think that's with how quickly technology, for example, is advancing. Often you have to spend time consuming content to learn the latest what's what. So there are times when, even if you are focusing on content creation, that you're going to need to go learn how things are working. There's a new app right now out there that seems to be the hottest thing called Clubhouse, which is an all audio interactive format. And that app is something that a lot of people are trying to get into, and you have to be invited and all this other stuff. And full disclosure, I'm waiting to get my invitation. I hope it comes. But the point is that it's the latest and greatest, and I really don't know anything about it. I'm going to explore it if and when I get invited to go in. So there's a lot of tech and a lot of the what is the word? Oh yes, the learning curve is going to be kind of steep for someone like me. I don't know the platform at all. But the point is that even though I'm mostly a content creator, I do spend time consuming content. And then the question becomes, if you are looking to innovate, what is the best, the optimal ratio of creating content to consuming it? And if you have a thought on that, I'd love to hear from you, because there's something really powerful about creating content that is all yours, writing a blog post, or writing a book, or writing music, or singing, or playing an instrument, or innovating a new way for your company to do something, just being open to possibilities, right? So on that level, creating content becomes really important, whether or not you're going to publish it, whether or not it's going to go up on your blog or your podcast or your vlog, or on any number of the social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Clubhouse, all of those. Regardless of all of that, you have to think about what that does to your brain when you are creating content. It allows to, let's see, how do I put this? It allows your mind and your brain and your body even to work together, to be inspired, to create, to come up with that what I call creative genius, that aha moment, the I know what let's do, I know what I'm going to try moment. That moment of inspiration, of going, I want to try this, something that happens when you are in content creation mode, mostly because you have to allow yourself that opportunity for inspiration to strike. And if you are being mindful about it, then you are in a place where your mind is available to inspiration. That's the whole point to me of mindfulness, is that you're not a tabula rasa, you're not a blank slate, but you are more open to inspiration. On the other hand, you can look at it like this. There is a place for content consumption and filling the well, right? We can look at this like, hey, when I consume someone else's content, whether or not I'm reading a blog post, or I'm on social, or I'm reading a book, or watching a TV show, or whatever those things might be, I could think of it as filling the well, right? Like Julia Cameron talks about in The Artist's Way. You could look at it like, hey, this is me filling the well. I went somewhere else to get inspiration, and now I'm going to be ready to create my own thing. And that's certainly a valid and valuable way of doing things. The question becomes, which works best for you, and how much of it do you want to be doing? And for me, I can't help thinking that the more time I spend on content creation, the more I am available for content inspiration. And I know that might sound a little weird, but it's really true. The more I write, for example, I'm writing a mystery novel right now, my very first mystery novel. I'm writing a mystery novel, and the more I spend my energy thinking about it, the more inspiration is coming to me. So recently, I'm in the very last few scenes of writing it. Recently, I'm waking up thinking dialogue of the characters in the book, because I'm spending so much time on it consciously creating that while I'm asleep or when I'm daydreaming, my subconscious mind is also ruminating on that, looking for possibilities, and I'm more available to inspiration because I'm spending time on that one focused thing, which is writing this book. But don't get me wrong, I guess that's the best way of saying it. It's not just that I'm only focused on this one book and I'm not doing anything else. I, in order to fill my well, will consume content by looking at art, listening to music. I love to create to Mannheim Steamroller, of all bands. There's something about their music, not their Christmas stuff so much, not their holiday music, but the older stuff that really puts me in a place where I can create. The wonderful musicians Al Petaway and Amy White, I love listening to their music while I create because I find it inspiring. Their music transports me. So but I can't really write my mystery novel to Al Petaway and Amy White because their music transports me into fantasy places. So I would write my urban fantasy novels when I'm listening to them. So I think a lot of it ends up coming down to you have to do some self-awareness study. What inspires you? Is it time spent creating your stuff, or is it time spent filling the well with other people's stuff? And using what inspires you, especially if it's external factors like someone else's music or looking at art or watching a TV show, reading a book, whatever it is, using the inspiration, not the plagiarism, don't get me wrong, but the inspiration from those sources of stimulation and ideation almost to create your own stuff, right? So on some level, you have to look at it like your ideas are there to give you starting points, right? That's what they do. The question is, where do you get your ideas? And I think we can get our ideas from multiple places. One, as I said, from those external sources. Two, from our own subconscious. Three, from already doing the content creation that builds upon itself. So that if you're doing something already in the genre, whatever that is, in the subject area that you are creating in, my goodness, if you're already doing something, new ideas will come because they will build on what you've just done or read or written or thought or sang. So I want you to think about that idea for yourself. If you're going to be innovating or creating and or developing a mindfulness practice within this year, the whole New Year's resolution thing, if you're going to be doing that, I want you to be thinking about how much time you spend creating your own stuff versus consuming what other people have done before you. No judgment either way. Just think about what's optimal for you. Think about what works best for you, and then do that. Because it's not at all about wagging my finger and going, hey, don't do that. Who am I to do that? It is about knowing ourselves and having the courage to try. And that's another part of this. And I think that'll probably be next week's episode about what it means to have the courage to try to do that content creation that I'm talking about. Whether you're writing a blog post or snapping an Instagram snap or doing a TikTok, it doesn't matter. On some level, it takes courage to get out there. And I think that part of ourselves is something we don't really pay attention to. So maybe we'll do that next week when I talk more about creating, innovating, and being mindful, and how those trends can come together into one new beautiful thing. Until next time, I would love to invite you to think about that. And if you have questions or if you have thoughts or comments, I'd love to hear from you. You can find me anywhere. I'm at Isolde T on Twitter and LinkedIn and Instagram. You can find me at any of those three at any time. I'd love to hear from you. I'd also love it if you would rate and review the podcast, either these standalone episodes or the interviews. I'm really excited about next week's interview. It is with Chef Guy Vaknin of Beyond Sushi, which is a vegan restaurant chain in New York City, and he's opening a brand new thing. We're going to talk about it. I can't wait to bring that interview to you. Why is that important? It's important because he has innovated food like crazy. He brings a whole new way of creating food, serving food, and the entire taste and food experience that I'm really excited to bring to you, and that'll be coming out Monday. So I hope that you enjoyed today's episode. Rate, review the podcast, subscribe to the show, and until next time, this is Isolde Trachtenberg reminding you to listen, learn, laugh, and love a whole lot. Thanks so much for joining me today. I really appreciate you being here. Today's episode was produced by Isolde Trachtenberg and is copyright 2020. As always, please remember this is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Past performance does not guarantee future results, although we can always hope. Until next time, this is Isolde Trachtenberg, and I send you all of my love.